This is so cool. It's 8:12. Jamie and Dan here, Light 95.7. Nice to have you along. If you're stuck in traffic, well, I hope you're comfortable because we're going to have a chat with a really cool guy here. Commander Chris Hadfield joining us on the phone.
Is that what we call you, Commander Chris Hadfield, or Chris, or what do you go by?
Dan and Jamie, that's fine if you want to call me Commander. I commanded the International Space Station early this year, and I think once a commander, always one, I guess. So, yeah, good morning to you.
Our daughter calls you Major Tom. She's 6.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. Yeah, that song has gone everywhere. It's crazy. It's with reposts, it's been seen hundreds of millions of times. So it's pretty amazing crossover between art and the reality of flying in space.
You know, I saw the video of you talking about Movember and just, doing things around your house trying to get hits because you're not getting as many hits on Twitter as you used to.
Actually, this week I went over 1 million people following what's going on back here on Earth on Twitter, which is pretty amazing. It's a real nice reflection of what people actually think about space flight and the interest in it, but also of all the work. I was an astronaut for 21 years and spoke at schools all across Canada, and it's really nice to see social media provides a way for people to get involved in things they're interested in. So I'm happy that many people are paying attention.
Well, I've got your new book here. I'm holding it in my hand. It's Chris Hadfield, An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth. The first question Jamie asked me after I read the book was, when did you start writing the book?
I started writing it a few years ago. I laid out how I wanted the book. One day when I seemed to spend my life in transit between 2 other places, sitting on an airplane once, I was starting thinking, if I ever do write a book, this is how I want to do it, and I laid it out. I started working on it in earnest a couple of years ago, a little over 2 years ago, and then had a lot of it written before I launched on my last space flight. During the 5 months I was up, it was way too busy to be doing anything but work. But when I got back, of course, I had so many experiences on the space station as well that I had to finish it. I got it done in August, I guess, is when I finally got the last part of it written.
You probably could write another book.
I intend to, actually. Hopefully to make a young adult version of that book, and there's a kid's book in the works. But eventually I would like to keep thinking about the stuff that is important to me and that I think is useful to other people. That book that you're holding there, it's amazing. I mean, it's a New York Times bestseller and the best-selling book in Canada, which is just crazy. But I never intended to write a book. It just kind of later in my career, I thought, okay, well, maybe I should do this. So I'm really gratified. I tried to make it useful, and I'm pleased that people are finding the book useful and interesting.
It really is a great book. I mean, to tell the truth, I don't get a chance to read very often. Jamie happened to be snowed in Red Deer over the weekend, so I had a found weekend, and I can't remember the last time I spent a day reading a book cover to cover. And nice. I was enthralled. I loved it.
I'm glad you did. That's nice to hear. Thanks.
Now, in the book, you talk about you likely will never go into space again because you've been so many times and you're retired.
But I wanted to ask about space tourism. Is that something you might be interested in at some point down the road? I mean, they need people to fly these things, right?
Yeah. Oh, I think space tourism is the next logical step. It follows the pattern of how we've done things on the surface of the Earth, where we develop a technology and we send out a few initial kind of probes, to go see what a place is like, and then we start moving there. And at some point, it stops being a government activity and it starts being a private activity. And we're just sort of at the cusp of that stage in spaceflight right now. And the leading contender is Richard Branson, Virgin Galactic, and he's hoping to fly the first passengers next fall. But for me, I've lived in space for half a year. And some of my friends are actually flying his rocket ships, his spaceships. A couple former shuttle commanders are going to be flying his rocket ships. We'll see how it develops. Never say never. But for the cost for now, I probably won't. But it's a lot of people are lining up to do that, and I think it's really a brave and good effort that Richard Branson's putting in, and I wish him great success with it.
Brave is the one thing. I don't know if I could do the first flight. I would you test it out first.
I was a test pilot. Almost always the first test flight's the best one to be on. It's like 20 or 30 flights in that you need to, when people start losing focus, that you really have to readdress it. So if you're going to go on the first one.
I'm making a note of that.
I don't know where we're going to find the money, Chris, but okay, We'll see. Well, now that you've been to outer space, I mean, that is such an out of this world idea, especially as a little boy. You write in the book, I mean, there was no space program in Canada, and you're like, I'm going to go to space. I'm going to be an astronaut. So you've done it. You've done the impossible as a little boy. So what do you do now?
Well, I've never really viewed my life sort of the way that it probably seems, of like the only thing I really want to do is fly in space. It's the whole process that is fascinating. You know, up until I launched last December, I've been an astronaut for 20 years, and I'd only flown in space for 20 days. So the huge majority of everything that is important in life happens on Earth, of course, and the joys and the successes and any of the failures. And so none of that has changed. I've just had, in addition to all of the normal things in life, I've just had a couple great experiences as well. But I'm really careful not to measure my life by one or two exceptional things that happened. I try and measure it on a daily basis. So I'm just moving back to Canada. I just bought a house last week, and my car still has Texas license plates on it because I've been out of country for so long. Just getting settled back and kind of trying to pick and choose and decide what it is that opportunities that exist, figure out what's important to me. And I think over the next year or two, I'll get settled back and really choose and pick what I want to do.
In case you missed it, we're chit-chatting with Commander Chris Hadfield, Canada's astronaut.
Can I ask you a dumb what happens in space question?
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
Okay,
because he'd be the one to ask.
Exactly, because we got on this topic earlier on. There was a guy who plays Mitch on Modern Family, and he sneezed and he hurt himself.
Yeah, and we're talking about how sneezing is super dangerous.
Yeah. Yep.
Is it like doubly dangerous in space? Like what happens when you sneeze in your space helmet?
If you're inside your helmet, you don't want to sneeze because once you've splattered the inside of your visor, you can't reach up and wipe it. So if you're going to sneeze, what you do is you push your head forward and down, and you just sneeze. It's messy, but you just sneeze down into your chest. And that way, you can clean it up later. But if you're weightless and you're floating around inside the spaceship, I was thinking, hey, if I have a big noisy sneeze, maybe it'll make me spin like a pinwheel backwards. So I tried it out. And I tried sneezing a bunch of times, fake sneezes and real sneezes. And unfortunately, there's just not enough, spit and air and stuff coming out of your nose and mouth to actually make much of a difference. It's noisy, but it's not very propulsive. So, no, I guess it's like one of those myths busted. But no, sneezes don't make you spin in space.
Darn. Okay.
Oh, man. Okay, so one more question here. Since Light 95.7 is the Christmas station, and this is where you'll find all of the holiday music, Santa Claus, Christmas on the space station, what's it like?
I was there for Christmas last year, and we hung up our stockings in the traditional place in between Node 1 and Node 3 above the hatchway, and they had our names on the top of them, so we had Oleg and Yevgeny and Roman and Chris and Kevin and Tom. And when we woke up on Christmas morning, there were candy canes and chocolates and little presents in each one of our stockings. I'd gone around before launch and gotten Christmas cards signed and letters from everybody's family, so I sort of smuggled those on board so everyone had a nice fresh note from their family. We played the guitar, we played Christmas carols, we had a Christmas tree hanging from the ceiling, we had stupid Santa Claus hats. It was great. I had a great space Christmas.
Did you get turkey?
Well, we had some irradiated turkey and some dehydrated mashed potatoes, and the dessert though is pretty good. There's like a peach cobbler. It's maybe not the most traditional Christmas dessert, but the peach cobbler, I recommend it. If you go to the space station, try the peach cobbler.
Well, that sounds great. I'm just happy that I won the bet. I told the boss, I said Santa Claus could make it to the space station. He said no.
But he did.
No problem. If reindeer can fly and land on rooftops and visit every household in the world in one night, there's no problem at all with going to a space station.
Commander Chris Hadfield, Canada's astronaut, joining us on the phone. Thank you so very much for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure to talk, and I'm sure that Chris Hadfield's new book, An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth, will find its way into a few stockings this Christmas.
Thanks.